the process and the basics in setting up your document, placing images, making grids, typesetting, things like that. So you have Indesign open here. I'm going to go to New File. I'm going to change units to inches, page width 4, height 6, and for pages, I'm going to put in 12. So you actually, ideally, will have two separate documents, one for the 12 pages and then one for the cover. Speaking of the cover, you do have some flexibility in that. I don't know if you remember some of the examples I brought in a couple classes ago. A lot of people used other like really nice paper or colored paper, things like that, that was thicker, had texture, whatnot. It doesn't necessarily have to be the cover filled with all kinds of stuff. It could just be really nice paper. That's perfectly acceptable. So I'm just going to set this document just for the 12 inside pages. Margins, you can leave it 1/2 inch. For bleed, I would put it at 1/8 inch, 0.125. This is kind of the standard bleed size. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. And if you adjust one, it'll adjust all, top, bottom, inside, outside. And then press create. And your document should look like this. Now, it should automatically have page 1 and page 12 separated. So you have your 5 inside spreads, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this will be good for designing and laying out both pages, the whole spread, one for each designer. You can see them side by side and design them together. Okay? All right. So a few things, especially when it comes to printed and published material, especially things that involve multiple pages, from zines to magazines and books, menus, etc. You're going to want to use a grid system. Now, when I say grid, I don't necessarily mean a literal square grid. You actually have flexibility over the kind of grid you use. When we say a grid system, it is a set of guides that are like a grid that will be consistent throughout every page, so that whenever you put an image down, whenever you put a paragraph down, page number or something, whatever it is, you know exactly where on that grid it fits for every single page. So you're not putting something kind of, let's say centered left, maybe about, I don't know, 3/4 inch from the side, and then you kind of have to eyeball it on the next one and eyeball it on the page after that. No, if you have your grid, you can line it up, each one exactly, so it's perfectly consistent from spread to spread, page to page. Now the margins already help with that, so the 1/2 inch margins here, kind of the area where the majority of your design is going to be. Obviously you can have stuff that goes off the edge, you can have decorative elements, but also be thinking, especially with books and things, with the binding, you open it up, you know, it's hard to read, it's hard to see stuff that's like really deep into the fold of the book. So, you know, a book that you buy, a novel or something, is never going to have the text that close in the center. It's going to be within a certain margin area. We put 1/2 inch. You could change that if you want. It's kind of the safe area. Again, it's just guidelines, just where you know, okay, the majority of my text or whatever it is going to be within a half-inch border around the edges. Now to add the grids, go up to Layout, Create Guides. Okay, I'm going to turn on Preview, so as I adjust the settings here, it will show up. As you increase the number of rows and columns, you'll see the guides that show up here. You just have to wait a second or something. So as I'm increasing them, you'll see, and I messed up because I moved the page above, so I can't see the whole page. Let me just do that again. We do it right, hopefully. Okay, so this is where you have some creative license. I could imagine something like potentially this. I mean, this is a lot. Could lower it. So what I'm looking for, let's just go with this. So the top edge of this image and bottom edge line up with these two guides here. Okay, now I know that as I go along, add more to each layout, to each spread, I know exactly where the placement will be and what the size will be. You could go a step further and do some cropping. Now I probably don't want to crop someone else's artwork. That might be a little weird. Some of the widths may vary, but this is the idea, so that it keeps, in this case, the height and placement consistent throughout every spread. Now when I made the guides here and the grid, I did them just on this one spread. Now you'll see that they do not show up on the other spreads here. What you'll want to do is go up, find, let's see where we're going. Your Pages tab, and then up above all these pages, you'll see the parent pages. Double click on one of those. This is actually technically where you should make your grid. So let me do something like that again. Everything that you put on your parent pages, they're also called master pages, will show up on all your actual pages where you're designing. So when I was putting it on this one, that's actually the wrong way to do it. You need to do it on the parent page. Okay? While we're looking at parent pages, this is also where you put page numbers. So instead of manually putting a page number on every single page, in this case, 12 pages, not that big of a deal. But imagine if you're writing a book or designing a book of 300 pages, you don't want to put a page number on 300 times. So get into the habit of using the master pages for adding your page numbers. Now, the process is a little weird, I'll be honest. I would have thought that they would have a slightly more intuitive way of adding page numbers, but what do I know? So on your parent page. I've double clicked on it. I'm looking here. You're going to go to your type tool, make a text box. I'll just do it the bottom left here. I'm not going to type anything in yet. I'm going to go to no, which one is it? Oh yeah, type, and then insert special character, and then markers, and then current page number. And I'll put the letter A there because this is the parent page A. Do the same thing over here. You can always move them around later. They're not perfectly placed yet. So I made a text box, type, insert special character, markers, current page number. Now when I go back to all the pages, they automatically show up 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, etc. That's how you're going to add your page numbers. So we have a bleed because I think talked a little bit about this with the poster project. Printers cannot print to the edge of the paper. So also this, you're not printing the edge of paper, but you are cutting down the size. So the 4 by 6 inch page spread being 6 inches tall, 8 inches wide, that's going to be centered and printed on the piece of paper, and then you cut each page out. Now, I think you actually some of you probably did this with the T-Box project also. You know that you have to have any color, pattern, texture, image that you want to go to the edge. It actually needs to go past the edge so that when you make the cut, there's no risk of some like a sliver of white paper being left, things like that. You want it to go past the edge. That's called a bleed. Okay, so for example, let's say I make I want this page to be, actually let's go to this one, a color, a solid color. I'm making a rectangle, and let's see, whatever, we'll just do this. This color, which will cover the entire page, goes to that red line, which is the bleed line. Okay? It needs to go past. Same thing with the image. If you wanted this to be the whole thing, it'd have to, you have to plan for having a little bit extra that gets cut off. It's just the way it is. Okay? All right. So we got page numbers. We got the grid, bleeds. What else do we need to cover? Let's talk a little bit about the text. All right, so I'm going to let's say I make my paragraph kind of fit within this rectangle here. We'll just pretend this is my paragraph. You can copy and paste paragraph from spread to spread. However, it's good to get in the habit of using character styles and paragraph styles. So everything's a little bit different for me. Oh, that's better. Okay, so under Window and Styles, open up Character Styles. Now let's go ahead and change this text. Let's say I'm going to change it to Avenir and 11-point font size. I'm going to turn off. Oh. Let me just adjust some of these settings real quick. And we'll make the excuse me, we'll make the leading, let's say, extra tall. And we'll make the text be red. Now I'm just doing something crazy as an example. So I've made a lot of changes. I've adjusted the size, leading, the typeface, the color, things like that. To save yourself some time, so you don't have to adjust all these settings for every single block of text, or every paragraph, but you are probably going to want to keep these the same. So you don't have to adjust all the settings every single time. We use character styles and paragraph styles. Now for character styles, you can come down here. The little plus icon adds a new character style. And I had this block of text highlighted. So when I click the new one, it should, yes, it gives you a preview of the style settings, shows Avenir, size 11, leading 16, and the color, the CMYK here for red. Now, let me go to the next page for another paragraph. I'm back to this stuff. Okay, so instead of having to go through all those settings again, I can click. I'm just going to select all that text. All I have to do is click on Character Style 1 and automatically changes it to the style that it's set up from this paragraph. Okay, this will come in handy. It'll save you time. It's also how professional designers work. Make your styles, make your grids, things like that. Any questions? Okay. A few other things. You do not have to do all the designing in InDesign. You could potentially make certain graphics and illustrations in Illustrator. You could do all kinds of photo effects, adding textures and whatnot. Maybe make some sort of, I don't know, cool photo effects in Photoshop and export it from there, bring it into InDesign. This is definitely where you're going to be laying out all of your elements, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have to do all of the work in here. InDesign is not great for illustration. So if you are making some sort of graphics, or let's say you are doing kind of vector illustrations of the portraits of designers, you're not going to do that in InDesign. You're going to do that in Illustrator and then bring it into InDesign. Okay? This is where you lay everything out. I think there's anything else we need at the moment. Sizing and resizing works a little bit different in InDesign. If I click and drag and bring in an image, I can actually click and drag a specific size that I want it to be, and it will automatically make the image at that size. Now, if I see the borders here, it's like, oh, I want to make it smaller actually. I click and drag. Guess what? It didn't actually resize the whole image. It's actually just cropping it, okay? So it's a little bit different with InDesign, but this can be helpful in certain cases. Let's say I do want to crop this. Then this little circle that's in here, you can actually move within the image within that frame. Move it around, adjust what you see. If you want to actually make the image smaller and not just crop it, you have to go over to your free transform tool, which is keyboard shortcut E. Then you can resize the whole thing. It won't crop. Something a little bit different about InDesign. If you want to turn off the guides so you can see your design without all the lines, press Command and semicolon. That shows you your pages. You can also, so these settings are showing the bounding boxes and things for the text. You can turn those off. Where are they? Frame images? Yeah, you can turn those off here. That might be helpful. Okay. Anything anybody would like me to cover in design? Anything that you feel you're unsure of? Is everything making sense? Mm-hmm. Are you talking about like these over here? Yeah, just the ones that aren't really common. I mean, to be honest, I have no clue what the content collector tool is. It might have even been added in a more recent version of InDesign. It's not a tool I ever use. Here's the thing. I mean, I've been using Illustrator a lot for a long time, and just recently there's stuff like I see people posting, 30-second videos on Instagram that will show a tool. I'm just like, how? I've been doing this forever. I did not know that was a thing. I mean, it's just endless. The amount of stuff that these programs have, it really is just. I don't think one person can memorize it all. So there's all kinds of stuff that may do very, very specific tasks that someone like me that doesn't design books for a living just doesn't know about. That's why even though I have been doing this for a long time, if there is something I'm just like I know there's got to be some sort of shortcut or something, I'll do some searches. Google, YouTube, see if there's a tutorial from someone who does design books for a living, because they probably spend 8 hours a day working in InDesign, laying out text and all that kind of stuff, and they would know more than I. So as far as that kind of stuff goes, there are plenty of these things that I never use, but all this stuff that I showed you, it does everything we need to make a zine. So I've never felt like, oh man, I can't believe InDesign doesn't do that. No, I was like, it does everything we need it to. we place our images, make our designs, color palettes, layout text, and then we'll talk more about the printing process and kind of the special settings for that at a later class too. But this is the basics, and this is technically between this and maybe making some things in Illustrator, this is all you need. Mm-hmm.
So when it comes down to the formatting of the zine, one will be the front cover.
So no, one will be the first page, which should be, now I'm willing to be flexible if you have some other ideas, but otherwise should be kind of like a table of contents. Maybe look at some inspiration for good table of contents design, and then it'll just be a brief, list of the designers you've chosen and the pages they're on, and it'll be minimal, or it'll fit within the aesthetic of the rest of your zine. So that'll be page 1, and then the next 5 spreads will have your 5 designers, and then page 12, the very last one, which will be the last page after the last spread, you turn it over the one last time, and then there'll be something else there. That is up to you on page 12. It could be anything. The cover needs to be made in a separate document. So the cover would look something like, if we go to new document, let's see, let me think. So 4x6, we'll do 4 pages. Do everything, margins, bleeds, yep. Now this is where you will have to make a change. So the front and back, they're connected. It's one piece of paper, printed front and back. But as you lay this out, it separates these. So you do have to combine them. Now, to do that, you have to remember a few more settings. On your Pages tab, at the top right, you have a little menu icon here. And you're going to turn off Allow Document Pages to Shuffle. Now you should be able to move the pages around. You can reorder them if you wanted to. And you can have the 2 spreads side by side. Actually, they're not spreads. It's just, let's say this one is front cover. One side of the paper, the front cover would be here, back cover here, because it gets folded. So this side is on the front, other side gets folded on the back. This will be facing backwards, so that's why front and back. And then inside front, because it's on the other side of the paper, and inside back. And this will be printed separately. Unless, again, you want to make it simple and just use like a solid, nice, colored piece of paper or something like that. You can absolutely keep it more minimal. There's nothing wrong with that at all. It might save you some time. That's just a personal choice. If you do that, then you may not actually be printing anything in the front and back. Now you could still get, like some sort of nice, say you wanted a red piece of paper, whatever, if it matches the aesthetic of your book. You could still put the red paper and print on it. It will just be like, black text on red paper. And if you try to do colors, then make it weird because they're printing colors on color. But if you just do, let's say, black text, that'll work. So you can still print on colored paper. Any other questions? Nothing? Yeah.
For the bios, where do we find that information?
Wherever you can.
Okay.
And it's short. It's like no more than a paragraph. And you don't have to write it. You just take it from other sources. Like this is not a writing assignment. I don't expect you to write the bios. Now you can edit them. You can write them if you want to, but I mean, if it comes down to spending time designing versus spending time writing, I would say spend your time on designing. Yeah, and wherever you can get them, just do a few searches on Google. Yeah, just one paragraph. I mean, maybe two paragraphs. I guess you have flexibility, but we don't want like an essay. Keep it minimal. Anything else? All right. Mm-hmm. So you just print them separately. Yeah, you're printing. If say you do have a design you're printing here, you print this file separately from this file, and then once the pages you have them all printed, and you cut them down, then you just assemble them together. But no, you keep it as two separate files. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah. Yeah.
So you know, like with the pages, it's like page like 2 and like 6, they're all the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
How do you arrange that? Do you just like move the pages?
So that's the beautiful thing. You don't have to. That's part of the special print settings. So you can keep all the pages as you kind of imagine them, designing them, and then when it comes to flipping them, rearranging them for printing, that InDesign will do that automatically through the special print process, which will save you a lot of time. So as you're laying out your design, just imagine like you're looking at it like it.
Design it on the spread as you would whenever you want it to open the book.
Yes. Yeah. And one last thought. I know stuff like this because there's multiple pages, there's more printing. It can be a little daunting. I know. If you do feel like it's a little bit overwhelming, keep your design and everything simple. Look at minimalist zine design. Let me do a search for that, see if there's any good inspiration. I mean, Google Images is not a great place for design inspiration. Please be aware of that. But just for ease, yeah, I mean, you can keep it very simple. These are not the best examples. I mean, I guess, okay, so you have image, you have a little blurb. Now this is kind of different than I imagine ours would be. But if you're feeling overwhelmed, just keep the design simple, clean, minimal, and don't worry about like trying to be overly creative. Focus more on the actual production, making good product. Getting the information across, things like that. You have plenty of time. The rest of your time here at UAB taking graphic design classes, you have plenty of time to add more creativity in future zines if you want. I mean, there's a lot that are really amazing. A lot of great illustrations, cool stuff going on with text. But hey, take it slow. You got time. Keep your zine simple. All right, well, you know where to find me if you have any questions. I'll try to get this screen recording edited and uploaded sometime soon.